100.5 Smyrna, audio and video, streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome in the Roundtable. I'm Andy Herzer, founder and executive director of First Shot Foundation, and a beautiful Monday morning. It goes from spring to hot, doesn't it? First week out of school. Welcome in Jonathan Harmon and Brian Nail. Brian, I must start with you first because I've known you longer, because we shared a brief moment in the mortgage industry together, and I was the only one, I think, smart enough to get out.
It's a beautiful moment.
So talk about where you're at.
Sure. Yeah, with Primus Mortgage, we brought this company into the Middle Tennessee market in 2022. So kind of right at the tail end of the low rate environment, or the beginning stages of the higher rate environment. Our team had been together for a long time, and we were looking for a dynamic company, a younger company, a company that saw the changing market as an opportunity to kind of lean into that and grow. And Primus was a great fit for us, and they felt like we were a good fit for them and their culture. And so we're really proud of the business that we're building here in Tennessee and throughout the Southeast.
So Brian, give a little background on you. Born where, grew up where, how did you get to Murfreesboro?
So I'll give you a short version of the whole story. I was born in South Carolina, lived there until I was about 12 months old, and moved to Arkansas. So I grew up in southern Arkansas. And when I was 14 years old, I get off the school bus, and my dad's cutting the front yard. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not good. And I knew that the town that we lived in was heavy in the defense industry, and that there were a lot of defense budget cuts. Operation Desert Storm had just wrapped up. And so I knew that my dad, being in middle management, had been laying off employees for a couple of weeks, and that had become his turn to get laid off when he was cutting the grass at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday. After a couple of weeks, the company called him up and said, hey, Rick, we'd love to keep you with our organization. We have an opening in Knoxville. So my dad transferred from Arkansas to Knoxville, Tennessee, and that's how we ended up in Tennessee. At this point, I'm 14, 15 years old. The last thing in the world I want to do is move. But in hindsight, getting into Tennessee out of Arkansas was a blessing for us. Nothing against Arkansas; it's a natural state, it's a beautiful place. But Tennessee opened up some doors for us that I don't think would have been visible if we had stayed in the same town, where we grew up. So I didn't want to go to UT. I didn't have any affinity for the University of Tennessee. I didn't grow up rooting for the Big Orange. So for me, a change was to get out of Knoxville, get away from family, get away from the high school friends, and do something new and challenge myself. So I came to MTSU, and been in Rutherford County ever since.
So what year did you graduate middle?
Middle was 2002.
So when we got fired,
yeah,
you graduated. So
okay,
we have something else now in common.
So we were at MTSU at the same time.
Everybody just says we got let go. Well, no, we got fired. We didn't win enough games.
Yeah.
You had to suffer through it.
Yeah.
Right?
You had some fun games though. You had some great moments.
Yeah. It was, and middle's been awful good to me. So we deserved it.
Yeah.
And that's just all I've said. Most of the time, in life things happen, and you figure out the next step.
Sure.
So with Primus now 3 years, struggle though, hasn't it been, with the rate environment a little bit?
It's definitely been a change, and when the change set in and business really started to slow down, man, I embraced it. I said, these last few years have just been so insane and so good, and a blessing financially, and a blessing to so many families to be able to help them and help them figure out a way to get a house under contract. That wasn't an easy market. That was a hard market because you'd do everything you could just to try to get somebody to get a house. And Jonathan can tell you, he'd write an offer for somebody 6, 7, 8. Who knows? What's your record?
Jonathan Harmon,
14.
Jonathan, tell him a little bit about your background, what as your main industry, and then we'll get to why I really invited you on.
Yeah.
All right.
Get rid of the boring stuff, right?
Yeah. Let's get it over with.
Yeah, that's right. Get it out of the way. So my name's Jonathan Harmon, and so I grew up here in Smyrna, born in South Texas. We moved here when I was 5. and grew up here. Both of my parents worked at Crosland Supply. If you guys are familiar with Crosland's, so they used to be in Smyrna and Franklin and Eagleville. Went through a little time, and now they're just open in Eagleville, back to their roots, I guess you could say. And went to Smyrna High School, went to MTSU. I was there a lot longer than Brian, so I started there in '97, and finally got out in '04, actually '05. But I did come out with a master's degree, so there's something. My dad tells me all the time there's lots of people that go to school for 8 years, but they're all doctors. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, Dad. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you got a master's.
I do have a master's, but we're almost there. And no, I will not be going back to finish the rest of that. Heck no. Taught for a few years, so taught for 1 year down in Cobb County, Georgia. They paid better, and then decided to move back home. This is home. Taught at Blackman High School for 3 years and coached wrestling there. So as a basketball guy, the basketball coach and myself were always butting heads with each other for gym time. So the wrestling team always lost that battle, by the way. We didn't get the gym. But
I was going to say, Barry Workman has a way of winning.
Yeah, I'm not – well, okay, maybe I'm still a little salty about it. But anyway, it was a long time ago. So left teaching, and it's funny you said about call it what it is. You got fired, right? So I got non-renewed. And my wife is like, well, you didn't really get fired. I'm like, no, I definitely got fired.
Well, hey, that's something to be said for overcoming adversity. When I made the move to mortgage, somebody definitely moved my cheese. I didn't get fired, but I got put on that notice that said, hey, you're on thin ice here.
Yeah.
And it was, and I looking back on it, I wasn't happy with what I was doing, and it had started to show up in my production.
That's exactly right.
It started to show up in my work. I wasn't challenged. I wasn't enjoying it. And I guess my management team probably saw that and wanted to light a fire, and they lit a fire, but it just moved me in a different direction than they thought it was going to. Maybe
that's exactly the same with me. Is I love teaching. I love the kids. I love I love light bulb moments. Like, it's addictive, right? I'm sure you guys have seen that when that light bulb finally goes off on someone and you go, they just got it. That is so addictive, and but at the same time, I don't do well with management, and my principal at the time absolutely recognized that, and I had changed what I wanted to teach all 3 years that I was there, because I was just restless, and I decided not to coach anymore, and I was not tenured at that point. I like to say that was a dumb mistake that actually ended up being one of the smartest things I ever did. And so got out, read a book called 48 Days to the Work You Love. If you're not familiar with that book, you should be. So if you know anybody that's searching, that's trying to figure out what to do, what I love about that book is that, it takes you through the test and, like, what are you good at, all that kind of stuff. But what's great about it, Andy, is that at the end of it, it says, okay, we figured out that you're a teacher. We figured out that you did this. You've got, this life experience. This is what you might be good at. Now, it's unapologetic in saying what job within these categories affords you the lifestyle that you want, right? It actually talks about money a little bit, which, everything else, it seems like, just follow your heart, blah, blah, blah. And that's great, and you should, but, you shouldn't go $100,000 in student loan debt to be an English teacher. I mean, let's just call it what it is, And
that's something we've got to figure out in America.
Yeah.
And it's really okay to say that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And there's nothing against English teachers. I one of my favorite teachers of all time was my junior English teacher in high school. Shout out to Jill Walls. Love her. I learned more in her class about the English language than I've ever learned in any other concentrated time in my life, But you should not go $100,000 in debt to do that. Like, you just shouldn't. Financially, it doesn't make sense. So anyway, I digress. I do that a lot. Sorry.
Nope. Hey, this is what this show's about. It's organic. And I love the passion that, Jonathan, that you show and have. And again, I think, I'm a teacher at heart too, but I'm not teaching.
Right. But you are.
But I am.
Exactly.
Right.
All the time.
So it's just in a very different capacity. But Jonathan, you're now in real estate, one of your many hats.
2009, I got into real estate, and if you're familiar with the market, it was terrible at that time. So you talk about how tough this market is. It's just different. right? Every market comes with its set of challenges. In 2009, of course, we were right in the beginning stages. 2010 was really the bottom of the trough there, but it was predictable. The market was just bad. So, you prepped a seller and said, listen, your house might get a birthday on the market. Like, it's possible, and I had some that got birthdays, but it was predictable. And so, now it's completely unpredictable.
What he's saying to the audience, listen, that birthday is a 1-year anniversary
of it being listed.
When it went on the market to it's still on the market. And a lot of people, lucky, unlucky at the times. That's when I got out of mortgages. I'll give you a story. I went to Kendra Cook invited us up to hear Rick Ruby, a famous guru guy, right?
Hey, Kendra's famous in her own right, though.
Oh yeah, I know she is. She's my sis now. So I'm sitting there writing all sorts of notes. My partner in the mortgage industry is looking at me, goes, yes, he's going to get on fire. We get in the car to go back home, and I said, I'm going to use this for first shot, this for first shot, this for first. So and he looked at me and said, that's your passion.
Yeah.
And all right, and it's also a gift. I found my gifts.
Yeah.
So both of you are a little bit of an entrepreneurs, correct? Tell me how. I mean, you started listening, and I want to get into 2 of them specifically.
Sure.
Spread the positive. Your podcasting, because it's become huge now. And if you're wanting to do a podcast and be effective in it, what are the things that you need to bring to the table?
So we haven't figured out exactly what the formula is yet, right? Because some of it has to do with how you're received, which, you have some control over that, of course, but some things just catch on, right? Like, you look at some of the things that have gone viral, and you, at least for me, I sit back and kind of scratch my head, and I'm like, that went viral? But so sometimes it's out of your control.
Well, the zebra's gone viral.
Have they found him?
Oh, yeah, they found him.
Is he safe?
He's corralled.
He's corralled.
Okay, good. I was worried about it. He had a beer at Cedar Glade, apparently.
The black bear in Hendersonville did not come out as well. They found him. But
yeah,
he didn't make it.
I know. Bless his heart.
He ran over.
But that to me was a fun one.
Yeah.
Sure. I think it all comes down to what is your heart, okay? And so, and I don't know how else to say that. It almost sounds cliche now, but what is your heart? What are you trying to do? And is it something that people can relate to? It's not even necessarily is it something that they want. People don't know what they want. I mean, let's just say it. But is it something that people can relate to? And are you doing it for the right reasons, right? And people read that immediately. I mean, people know. It's hard to be fake when you got a camera in your face and a microphone in front of you. It's just hard. It's hard to be fake then. And then, are you able to, especially in podcasting, are you able to take, should be a relatively simple idea, right? Because you have a limited amount of time. Are you able to do that, and are you able to do it over and over and over and over and still stay relevant and useful, right?
And just interesting,
right?
Yeah, you got to have something, a topic that people want to hear about and value your opinions regarding.
And people is this big, not like 6 people.
Yeah.
So my question is the length of time, like, I know we're streaming here for about an hour.
Sure.
Which, I can talk to myself for an hour. My wife says I do.
That, yeah.
So is the length of it, does it need to be short, or is it just really subject matter driven?
I think it's subject matter, right? And I mean, the reality is that people have short attention span. But you can read anything on the internet. Is it 30 seconds? Well, obviously that's not a podcast, right? That's a reel or something along those lines. But can you hold somebody's attention for 10 minutes? Can you hold their attention for an hour? I mean, you look at some of the big ones out there, the Joe Rogans and people like that. I mean, they can hold your attention for
2 hours,
easy,
right?
So I mean, I don't know that matters so much, maybe when you're starting out, but I don't know, I'm kind of rambling here. Sometimes if you try to make it too short, you don't get the whole story. And the podcast format allows you to get the whole story because you're not blocked, like radio, for example. You're not blocked into amounts of time. But radio separates wheat from chaff too, you know? I mean, you have to fit it into that amount of time, so you have to be concise with your words.
You're going to get to the things that matter in radio. And
Yeah.
with podcasts, I think too, you know, some of the formats are very successful, and they're those serial type of podcasts where it's like, hey, we're gonna do 5 episodes on this subject. So, you know, that's something you can tune into, and you know you're hearing a story, and it's broken down into segments, and they may be 20-minute long episodes, they might be an hour long episodes, but you're going to. It's almost like watching TV. You're just doing it while you're driving or at the gym, and you're able to get all that content and process it through.
And that to me is where consistency is important, right? So if I'm hooked on X show, whatever it happens to be, and I know that every episode is 20 minutes, right, or 30 minutes, then I know how I can block that into my time. I'm going to go run for 20 minutes. Okay, every time that I run, I can catch an entire episode of that show. That's important, right? People plan.
So when spread the positive, I mean, the name kind of speaks for itself. You want it. It's not about coming on and trashing people and getting into the dirt. It's about what is effectively and positively going on in our community. Is that the premise of it?
And I think for anyone who may not be familiar with Spread the Positive, it's a network. So it's not one show. There's a studio, and Trent Denson is the mastermind behind it. And
There's 30 shows now.
And he's got 30 some odd shows, and each one will have a focus. And so Jonathan and I do one called This Week in Real Estate, and we do some meat and potatoes kind of stuff, but then we have some lighthearted moments in the show as well. He's had was Kirk Cameron on an episode? Because Kirk Cameron's son has a show on there, and so Kirk Cameron came into the studio.
Kirk Cameron.
The Kirk Cameron did a show.
It was on every girl's wall in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know who he is.
So, but each one of these shows is got some kind of positive vibe about it.
And even some of them even are not overtly positive, but there's good news behind it, right? So there's a show on there. It's awesome, and it's 3 sisters, I believe, that were separated, and they and in their adulthood they found each other, didn't know about each other, found each other, and so it's them sitting around telling stories and how even without knowing each other there's parallels and all kinds of stuff. It's super cool. Some of the stories are sad. And some of them are not necessarily positive stories, but the overarching theme is, hey, this happened, and here's how we're moving forward.
So, if I want to listen to a podcast that Spread the Positive has 30 shows, is it out there somewhere where people can find it, sift through what they're kind of interested in?
Yeah. So if you just do a Google search, Spread the Positive Network. He's on, there's stuff on YouTube, there's stuff on all the social medias.
Spotify.
He's on Spotify, all of the podcast networks. I think he's even got his own little thing. I don't know. It's all over the place.
So, again, how many for that network? Is there a capacity? There is no capacity.
I mean,
you could have 500 shows.
Trent would be a very busy man.
Well, you'd have,
but yeah.
Then you hire another.
Right, of course. But yes, that's correct.
Wow. So I just I haven't grasped the whole podcast thing. And maybe it's my age. I'm 64 this month. Maybe it's really a thing that is not my, of my generation. I know my son, he's sending me stuff all the time of what he's listening to. So he's a huge podcaster. So is it a generational thing?
I don't think so. I mean, there's podcasts out there for quite literally every topic you can imagine, and I think if you just think about it like, kind of think about it almost like how TV has evolved, right? Like growing up in the 90s, you tuned in every Friday at whatever time to catch the next episode of whatever it happens to be. right?
TGIF, right?
That's it, TGIF. And now you almost like think of it like decentralizing, right? You pull it off of a specific network, you put it online somewhere, and maybe there's still a weekly episode release, but then you can go in there. It's almost like a DVR, right? Here's every episode. So if you just now discovered this show, okay, then you can go back and find all of the previous shows, 50 shows, 10 shows, 200 shows, whatever it is, and you can just dive on into it. So
well, we're going to take our first break. We're going to come back and finish out with, because I'm really interested in the podcasting thing, and Brian's trying to help me figure it out too. But we'll take a break and be right back.
At Turner Security, we bring cutting-edge protection with live video monitoring, access control entry, advanced camera systems, and intermedia IP phones, all designed to keep your business safe and connected. From small businesses to large enterprises, our expert team ensures seamless integration and around-the-clock monitoring, because security isn't just a service, it's our mission. Turner Security, powered by TechCore.
First Shot, growing in Christ with life and athletic skills.
So we teach God's word at everything we do to implant it in them so that they understand that the only way to get through the world is with God on their side.
First Shot founder and executive director Andy Herzer.
Our focus is on our inner city here at Patterson Park.
From academics to athletics, First Shot's focus is toward building a stronger, more courageous spirit to face opportunities and obstacles that our youth confront every day. To find out more about First Shot, go to firstshottn.org.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
When is the best time to move to Adams Place?
We debated coming here for 3 or 4 years before we came, and I wish we had come a little earlier. Everything could be managed here, and that was a great blessing for us all. I've had a lot of support and a lot of friendships that have kept me going.
I'm Terry Deal. Call me about Adams Place. Phone 615-904-9111. Memorial Boulevard, across from Walmart.
Good Neighbor Events is brought to you by Americare Pest Control, Old National Bank, and the law offices of John Day.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the Law Offices of John Day. For more than 30 years, my team and I have worked hard to help injured people throughout Middle Tennessee. Over that time, we've helped thousands of people get the legal help they need when they've needed it the most. And if we're not able to help or aren't the right lawyer for you, we'll do the best to point you in the right direction. If you've been injured, call the law offices of John Day for a free consultation. And remember, there's no fee unless we win your case. June is busting out all over with WGNS Good Neighbor events. The 16th annual MTSU Alumni Summer College. There are still a few openings available. Register online or phone 615-898-2922. That's MTSU's 16th Annual Alumni Summer College, June 25th through the 27th. Put this on your calendar. The Taste of Rutherford, the annual fundraiser for Main Street, Murfreesboro, will be Saturday, July the 19th, 6 until 9 in the evening. Don't miss A Taste of Rutherford. Get with Main Street, Murfreesboro for more information. Oh, and this is the 33rd Annual Secret Garden Weekend. For information about the Secret Garden events, contact the Discovery Center at Murphy Spring. That's this weekend. Oh, would you like to volunteer at Greenhouse Ministries? They have an orientation meeting to show you what's available. And that's every Thursday morning at 10 at Greenhouse Ministries at 307 South Academy Street. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
Mostly sunny skies here this afternoon with a high in the upper 80s. Tonight, mostly clear, low near 63. Tuesday, sunny and a high around 90. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 67.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. MTE's Plugged In podcast focuses on the world of electric vehicles. Stay up to date on the EV world, hear interviews with experts, and more. Listen on your favorite podcast platform or visit mte.com/pluggedin.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back into the Roundtable. I'm Andy Herzer, founder and executive director of First Shot. I'm going to do a shameless plug right now. We have camp starting in July 7th to 10th for 5 to 8-year-olds. July 10th to the 13th, July 14th to the 17th for 9 and ups. We have boys and girls. We have about 10 spots left in each camp, and we will be full. If you go to firstshottn.org, click on the basketball link, click on summer camps, you can register there. And we'd love to have your grandson, granddaughter, son or daughter, whoever you want to send to camp. We would love to have them. It's a great time and a lot of skills being taught. So welcome back in, Jonathan and Brian. Let's finish the podcasting thing. And again, it intrigues me because I don't think I'm interesting enough to do shows. And everybody's saying I should, and I'm for First Shot, and I just can't get my head around it.
Well, spoiler alert, Andy, you're doing what you would do on a podcast right now. like you're doing it as we sit here, you're doing it. So, all it is recording what you're doing, right? And in real estate, one of the things that we try to do is if we make one effort, how do we leverage that effort several times, right? So if we make the effort to sit here and do this, how can we continue to leverage this effort, right? That was a really great episode. Well, if it's just radio, okay, and you didn't tune in while this was happening, you missed it, right? But if we're recording it and we're placing it somewhere and it's saved, and I know we are, right? Then if Brian goes and talks to a friend and is like, hey, man, you should have heard that episode. It was awesome. They still can. So that's all podcasting is.
Do these shows get saved and recorded on demand?
Yes.
Okay.
You're podcasting right now, Andy.
So there you have it.
There you have it.
It was over my pay grade to understand it, probably. But, we're going to switch gears here a little bit. And it's really why I asked you guys both to come on. You guys, we have enjoyed coming down on Tuesday nights to Singo.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a good time.
We've enjoyed just coming. It's just a really chill place for me, Cedar Glades. But let's go back to the beginning, you two. How did you want to become a brewer?
Well, that's definitely more of a Jonathan question than me because I wasn't there for the origin of it. So I'll let Jonathan handle that.
So let's start with this, okay? Craft beer as an industry is a very interesting phenomenon, right? How do you take what is ultimately a vice and turn it into a hobby? I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? And I did the college thing, obviously for 8 years. So really did the college thing for a little while. You know what I mean? And as I have evolved and grew up and matured, I realized that like some people are wine connoisseurs, some people call themselves foodies, some people, whatever, right? Bourbon stewards and people like that. The beer world is fascinating to me that you can take ultimately 4 ingredients and have an endless, documented hundreds of styles of beer. And then really that's even endless because you start merging stuff and you know what I mean? And it's only 4 ingredients, ultimately.
Tell us the 4 ingredients.
Water, hops, grain, and yeast. That's it. Now, people might add fruit and they might add some other, what we would call an adjunct, but ultimately beer is those 4 ingredients, right? So how do you manipulate that? How do you change? How do you use this grain versus this grain, this yeast versus this yeast and this yeast, right? And you start manipulating that, and it's endless.
And the yeast makes a huge difference.
Tremendous difference.
Why does it make it such a huge difference?
Yeast is one of the most interesting organisms,
it's an organism.
creatures, whatever you want to call it.
It's an organism.
Yeah, and so basically, you've got this microscopic organism that eats sugar, and not to get too weird, but basically it poops out carbon dioxide and alcohol, along with some esters and different things like that to flavor stuff. And those extra things that they put out,
those esters,
that's what gives different styles of beer different flavors. So a Belgian beer, a Belgian yeast is gonna release stuff that imparts to us a flavor of banana and clove a lot of time, right? But that is not the same as, say, a lager yeast that does not put out those flavors. It puts out totally different flavors, and it does it at different temperatures, and you have to treat it differently. And so the science behind it, the more you learn, when you learn one little thing, it opens the door to hundreds of other little things, if that makes sense.
So when you're doing these different styles, how many different yeasts do you have to go get?
Oh gosh, several of our beers use the same yeast, but any time that we want to change, or if we go from a lager to an ale, for example, those are different yeasts.
Tell them the difference between a lager and an ale.
Do that, and then also tell the native creatures story.
Oh yeah, native creatures, my favorite beer that we ever made. So the biggest difference is the temperature at which they ferment, that they operate, right? So a lager yeast likes it cold, an ale yeast likes it warmer. To really simplify it, and so the difference in the beer, if you have a blonde ale and just say a plain like a Helles lager or a really simple Vienna lager, we would say that those styles are comparable to each other, but the ale is frequently going to be what's the word, smoother, right? It's going to be lighter and easier to drink, because it just takes. The ale is going to be less. The lager is going to be smoother and easier to drink because it takes longer to do it. It's at a colder temperature. It's just very different. So your Budweiser, for example, is a lager, right? Ales take less time, but time tends to smooth things out, right? Like in just
anything
as a life rule, right?
We hope some of us get grouchy old guys, right?
There's so many life lessons in beer.
Exceptions frequently prove the rule. You know what I mean? But anyway, so here's an example for you on how cool yeasts are. Okay, we made a beer called Native Creatures, and our good friend Art helped with this beer. It was a collaboration amongst 30 breweries across the country, and so there was one recipe that was designed, and there were 2 yeasts that were isolated, and all 30 of the breweries got that. There was one label that was designed. It was a very cool collaboration, and it was brewed as a Belgian double, so a kind of a heavier beer. It's a little darker. It's delicious. I love them too. And but what we did is we used these 2 wild yeasts. Okay. So one came out of California. It's named Daniel's yeast. There's a fella out there that has kind of evolved and cultivated this yeast. The other one was captured here in Tennessee, and so they took 2 wild yeast strains, one off of a honeysuckle vine, and then one they set a moonshine-soaked cherry out in the sunshine and said, "Oh, there's a yeast." Took that, put those 2 together. Our friend Rick helped spool this yeast up. They did their thing, and they created this yeast, and then that was cultivated up. So you have 2 wild yeast thrown into this beer. It sat in stainless for, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, something like that.
Is that long for a beer?
Especially for an ale. An ale's the longest is typically gonna be a month, and that's a long time for an ale. A lot of times they're 2-3 weeks. Now a lager, you're 8 weeks. Because it takes longer because we step that temperature down. So anyway, this thing sat in there, and it took on, man, you almost want to call it funky, right? Like a sour beer, but it's not. There's a little bit of funkiness to it. That's the wild part of the yeast. But the craziest thing about it is it has a very distinct cherry flavor to this beer. And there is zero cherry in it. There is none. It is just from that yeast that grew on that single cherry.
Wow.
It's crazy. I
what
love
nature
that beer.
does is always fascinating to me.
And listen, I'm not the most religious person on the face of the planet by far, but you would have a really tough time ever convincing me that there's not intelligent design going on, that there's not some being, right, that says, no, it's going to work like this, times infinity with all of the intricacies in our world. You know, take a yeast, take a leaf, take whatever, and the design that's involved there, there's no way it's accidental.
All right, Brian, tell us how you got involved.
Well, I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I don't know anything about making beer, but I enjoy drinking it. And so after the brewery had been open for about a year, they wanted to do some things, and so they opened up for a round of capital. And I came to a meeting, looked at some of the financials, and I was like, this is a total coin flip. I don't know if this business is gonna take off and really go places, or if it'll just kind of just be around for a few years. But I want to be a part of it. I want to see if I can help it go somewhere. And so with my wife's support and blessing,
thank you, Erica.
Yes, we invested in after they've been open for about a year, and I've learned a lot about it. That entrepreneur, part of me, that aspect of me, has certainly been scratched. It's been a lesson for me to learn just how much it takes. And I've always said, hey, a lot of people go into small business and they're really good at doing something, but they're not successful because they don't have the work ethic. And everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people think that I want to be my own boss. And they don't understand how hard that is, how every day you have to wake up and you think you might have an evening where you're going to be chill with your family, but somebody calls in sick, and all of a sudden now that is not what is going to happen, because if somebody doesn't cover that, your business won't be open. And so
that happened to Brian on Saturday, by the way.
It did, but it's happened to you 300 times.
Sure.
So there's this satisfaction that comes from that, though. Just hey, I'm on my way up there Saturday night, and I'm like, I can't believe this. Why did I invest in this? What am I doing? And I get there, and customers are coming in, and people are having a good time, and it's fun, and it's exciting to talk about the different beers and tell our story to people that we're in for the first time. People had come up from Huntsville because they're part of there's a hop passport that people can buy, and you get discounts at breweries at any participating hop passport, and their goal is to try to get all of them stamped. So they come up from Huntsville to have 2 beers, and then they're moving on to the next place, right? Well, I get to try to make an impression on them, so that maybe the next time they have family in Middle Tennessee, they make it a point to stop in at Cedar Glade and have a beer. It's so much fun just to be a part of that.
And Andy, I'll throw out there. So our business, Cedar Glade, was born out of the community. Okay, so the actual origin story is pretty cool. There's kind of 2 things going on at one time. Okay, so my partner Jeremy Weaver and former partner Skip Webb, they homebrewed together. Okay, and they were part of the Mid-State Brew Crew, and they homebrewed under the name Cedar Glade Brews. And the reason for that, where that name comes from, is indigenous to right here in Middle Tennessee, specifically Rutherford County and Wilson County. There's a landform called a cedar glade. And what a cedar glade is there's a forest. We have, as you know, we have lots of rock. And so the soil erodes off the top of the rock, and it's exposed rock. Some of the coolest cedar glades look like the landscape on the moon, only with a little bit of grass growing, right? And what happens is in the summertime, when we hit, what is it supposed to be, 88 degrees or whatever today, those rocks end up being 130 degrees because they absorb the heat, and it stays hot even through the night and all of that kind of stuff, right? So what that does is that creates an environment where unique flora grow, and quite literally nowhere else on earth some of these flowers grow except for in our cedar glades. And so Jeremy's, he had some family land, and it had a cedar glade on it, and since it's unique to the area, our beer is unique to the area, that's where the name came from. Okay, well then simultaneously here I am growing my real estate business and supporting the community, huge involved in the community, always have been, You know, I don't like the term giving back to the community, because to me that insinuates that I took something. I like the idea of participating in the community, right? To what extent can I participate?
Well, there's ways for me that you've done it, Jonathan, just so you know I've seen it from afar. I say you've invested yourself in our community.
That's exactly right, and I love that term better.
And the reason why is you take your time, you take your talents, and you take your money, and you give where you always have.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty to me of Murfreesboro. Is guys
100%.
like you guys that invest back into it.
And I would stretch that to Rutherford County. So I learned that from my parents. And, you know, I mentioned they worked for Carlson Supply. They didn't make a ton of money, you know. But my whole life, my parents have poured back into the community with whatever they could, right? And usually it was time, right? So I would go, there was a gazebo at the old Rock School Park. And I'll never forget, my dad built that gazebo. And he didn't get paid for it, you know, but the park needed a gazebo. So he built it. And I went and helped him. You know, I was, I don't know, 8, 10, whatever. And we went and built the gazebo. And I remember, like, walking in that park going, hey, my dad built that. And that was cool, you know. Nobody else probably thought it was cool, but it was cool to me.
Yeah, because it's something that you did.
Yes.
And you did with your own hands. We're going to get back to the thing. The first time I ever had a craft beer, we were out in Seattle at a Final Four. Some buddies of mine said, hey, we're going to go across to Victoria Island. There's this little beer joint we're going to go to. Everybody's talking about it. So I get on the ferry with them, go across. You know, at that time, I was just a Bud Light drinker. I had my first craft beer back in 1986 or 87. I can't remember what year it was. And I thought, man, this is just a fad. Well, now you're looking 50 years, and they were already out there 9 or 10, maybe more, in California, you know, the West Coast, Seattle. And it was just such a different flavor.
Yeah. Well, it had flavor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's call it that. Well, do you know, are you familiar with Kamari House?
Yes.
Okay, so born out of the community, right? I show up. The Kamari House was having a homebrew competition, and they sold tickets to this. And so I bought a table for it just to support Kamari House. Figured I'd have some good beer, probably have some bad beer too, you know. And but we were gonna have a good time. So I bought a table. We show up, and it just kept going back to the Cedar Glade table. Their beer was just better overall. Not all of them had good beer, right? But theirs just hit me better than everybody else. And so kept going back, interacted with Jeremy and Skip, had a great time. Well, they had a silent auction. And one of the items in the silent auction was that Cedar Glade homebrewers would brew 2 kegs of whatever kind of beer you wanted, whatever style you wanted. And I'm like, man, this is awesome, right? Support Kamari House, have good beer, let's throw a party, right? So I bid on it. I kept bidding on it. You know how silent auctions go, right? Well, me and one other guy were bidding against each other on this, and I have no idea who he was. Sorry that you lost, whoever you are.
This is the no shame part of the story.
There's no shame, no shame whatsoever. He bids on it, and Jennifer announces, "Hey, we're about to close the silent auction." So I'm standing about from me to you, away from the sheet, right? And I watch him, kind of watching him out of the corner of my eye, and he comes over and he puts his name down. She says 30 seconds, and I'm like. And I go sign my name real quick, and I throw the sheet downstairs because it was in the upstairs of the barn at the what is it, Williamson Family Farm or whatever it's called.
No shame.
So I made sure I won is the point, right? And so I tell the guys, you know, we meet. I say, hey, we're gonna do a Belgian double, my favorite, and an ESB, my other favorite style of beer. And they're like,
tell them, because you just said something I didn't know. What's an
ESB? So it's an English style beer. So it stands for extra special bitter, and it freaks Americans out to call a beer bitter, but understand that it's more bitter than mead. Is where that name came from. Okay. So it's when we introduced hops, or when they introduced hops into their beer. It's fantastic. We would probably call it a dark amber here, or something along those lines.
It's probably what I like drinking.
It's so good. It's my favorite style of beer.
You would like it.
And so they're like, we've never brewed that. We make a really good this and that. And I'm like, well, that's fine, but I won you guys, so this is what you're going to make. And anyway, so fast forward, we have a couple hundred people in my backyard, and they roll this cool cedar bar out onto the driveway, and they're like, here's your ESB, here's your Belgian double, here's a lager, here, and they fill up 6 taps, Andy. 6 taps.
Wow.
And thankfully we were at my house because I drank all 6 taps and several of them. And at the end of the night, I'm like, guys, y'all's beer is so good. We got to make this thing legitimate. And they're like, hey, man, you're drunk. And I'm like, yes, that's a fact, but I'm not wrong. And fast forward a little over a year later, and we opened, and we start the process of getting the brewery going.
That process is daunting, though.
Oh, my gosh. I had no
because
idea. I
of
was so
all the
naive.
regulations. I mean, it's just health department. And
TTB, so federal, state, and municipal all have something to say about what you do. So beer licenses, for example, are local. Murfreesboro is who issues that. But yet the state taxes, I mean, at like 3 different points, they tax the product that you make, right? And then the federal government, of course, regulates it as well. And if you go out of state with your beer, they really regulate it at that point, right? Otherwise, you're basically a bootlegger if you don't do that the right way. And so, yeah, I mean, the regulation, we have a good accountant that helps keep us straight on taxes and things like that. I have learned by force more. Several times I've learned by not doing it right the first time, and us getting a notice and me calling the partners and me like, hey, y'all, did you know that we were supposed to have done... And anyway, thankfully everybody's pretty cool at all the different levels there of
pretty forgiving.
They are,
because
they just want to be paid.
Yes,
that's all it amounts to.
End of the day, they want our money. It's another form of taxation, but I won't get into that.
That's a whole other conversation.
you know, again, talk about you guys. Are, again, I said my wife and I really enjoy coming down to Singo, bingo, and just enjoying. It's just such a fun atmosphere. Talk about some of the other events you guys got coming up and how people can get involved.
Oh man, we got a good one.
This Friday we have
next Friday.
Next Friday, the International Folk Fest, which is this really awesome thing that has been going on for
42 years.
Decades.
This one is
42 years.
Steve Cates, do you know Steve?
I do not.
You should know Steve.
So they will bring in dance troops, folk dance troops, and musicians from 3 different countries every year. And this has been going on for 40 years. Never even knew about it until last year when we got involved. And so they'll go across the different venues in the Mid-State area for a week and perform. And so that Friday night is one of the final nights. I don't think it's the final day of the
next day is the last one.
Yeah, but it's like the final. It's a big party. We shut down the parking lot next to the brewery. All 3 dance troops come together and perform.
Plus Cripple Creek Cloggers.
And then the Cripple Creek Cloggers out of Cannon County come in, and they do the American folk dancing. And so last year we had groups from England, Mexico, and the Czech Republic. This year we have Poland, Estonia, and Puerto Rico coming. And so I am just fired up for this. It's going to be so fun. And it's an art, and it's community, and it embodes everything that we want Cedar Glade Experience to be, and that's a place for community to gather and celebrate and just do great things and just kind of be in the moment.
Yeah.
Well, Brian has come back in. That means our final break, and again, we'll be right back with the Roundtable.
Do you love WGNS Radio? Well, now you can watch it too. WGNS Big GTV brings your favorite radio shows live and on demand. From breaking news and community talk to Rutherford County's top local sports. We've got it all right at your fingertips. Watch anytime, anywhere. WGNS Big GTV, where radio comes to life.
Mirafast works fast, but without the harsh side effects.
Since I'm such a smart traveler, can I move to first class?
No. Close the curtain, Carol.
From the makers of Miralax, new Mirafast soft chews work naturally with your body in as little as 30 minutes to give you a comfortable go on the go. Look for Mirafast at Walmart today. Use as directed for occasional constipation. Contains magnesium hydroxide.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back into the Roundtable. I'm here with Jonathan Harmon, Brian Nell. You guys, the hour's gone by quick.
I can't believe it.
I can't either.
But let's finish up with a few more of the events coming up. We got the folk dance,
International Folk Fest
dance at Cedar Glades, Friday the
13th.
The 13th.
Don't be scared.
It's a great night.
So here's the cool part about that is, and I sat down with Steve last year and we envisioned this. So they needed a place to do kind of a capstone event. We have a place for them to do it. So we brought them in, and man, we have just totally embraced them. So one of the things that we did last year, and we're doing again this year, is we go and research a beer, because beer, music, dance, right? All of that's universal languages. It doesn't matter what country you are. It's universal. And so we said, okay, what beers are made like native? What is that country known for as far as beer styles go? And so last year we did that with those. We did a Czech Pilsner, we did a Mexican dark lager, and we did an ESB from England. And then this year we've got Poland, so we've got a Baltic Porter, and then
what's a Baltic Porter?
It's a heavier, higher alcohol dark beer.
Okay.
So that one's going to hit about 8.5% ABV. So fairly strong beer. But it's scary easy drinking though. So anyway, be careful with that one. And then Puerto Rico, of course, light lager, beach beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the cool one, I'm so pumped about this. I have no idea how it's going to be. It's called a Kodulo from Estonia, and it is their like national kind of beer, and it's like a farmhouse ale. It's got this weird yeast in it that only produces banana flavor. It is full of juniper berries, so it's got this like piney. Andy, I have no idea what to expect. It's not boiled, so it's going to be thicker. Like it's crazy. So
I look forward to it. So you have a couple more events on the horizon. Talk about those, Jonathan.
Yeah, so we've got that. We've got on the 21st, we're serving over at Rutherford County Pride, and we're hosting the after party. A fellow named Bradford Loomis, look him up. He's incredible. Is going to provide the entertainment for that evening. Incredible songwriter and performer. Just feelings like pouring out of him, right? I mean, he's great. We've got we're serving at the air show this coming weekend. So we're actually pouring beer in the Flightline Club, and then our cans are in the concession stands. Fun one coming up September 5th. It's the Friday before Grandparents' Day. We're still working on the name of it. Right now it's Adopt a Classic, because I didn't like the word geezer. But
I'm a geezer.
I know, man. Anyway,
I'm a grandpa. I'm a geezer.
It is what it is. But we've got some live music with Vagabond Train. And we're going to have tables, so we're helping Alzheimer's Tennessee, and it's going to be a fundraiser for them. And basically, you can buy a table. You get 4 seats at the table, and then the other 4 seats will be given to folks from some of the independent and assisted living. So you get to sit and hang out. So that's going to be super fun. We host
4th of July.
Yeah, 4th of July. It's a great spot to watch the city fireworks without getting in the traffic. Of course, we have a monthly cruise in. We do trivia on Sunday nights.
It's really all of these events. When we decide like what kind of events we want to participate in and what we want to do, it gets back to that third place idea of like, and Jonathan has a better description of what the third place means than I do, but it really just a place to gather and feel comfortable and be. So tell them about the third place.
Yeah, so third place is it's kind of a buzzword these days, and basically home, work, Cedar Glade. It's your third place, right? So where do you go to hang out, to be part of a community? Where are you norm? Do you watch Cheers, right?
Yep.
Where are you Norm? And everybody needs to be Norm somewhere. You know what I mean? And maybe that's your church. Maybe that's somewhere else. Maybe it's a couple of places.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay. But where are you Norm? Where do you fit in and you walk in and go, I feel better now that I'm here, right? And it's not about the alcohol. I mean, we have plenty of folks that hang out with us that drink zero alcohol.
Yeah.
And we're good with that, right? Bring in your own food. We got sodas. We got non-alcs. We got all kinds of different stuff for people. If you're, you know, we'll never say you should have a beer. You know, do you want a beer? Do you want a soda? Do you want, you know, some water? I don't care. Just come hang out with us.
Yeah, well, again, it's if you've not been, give the location. Some people, that road's obscure. I didn't even know that road's name. You got to think about it, but I know how to get to your place.
Yeah. 906 Ridgely Road is technically the front of our building, but the brewery actually fronts Scott Street. So if you know where Chewy's and Chili's are on Broad Street, there's a road in between. That's Ridgely Road. And so we're at the back of that building. Our building makes the back of Chewy's parking lot.
And again, it's just such a fun place, and two of the coolest guys I know in town. I appreciate you coming on and being part of the round table, and I look forward to seeing you soon at Cedar Glades.
Thanks for having us.
We look forward to having you.